Now, our next presenter, Dave G8GKQ, probably needs very little introduction. Dave has led the BATC Portsdown project for 6 years, and today he's going to describe the latest developments and give us a glimpse of the plans for the future. As before, please feel free to ask questions or make comments on BATC or Zoom messaging. Welcome to CAT22, Dave.
Thank you very much, David, and thank you for hosting.
Pleasure.
Okay. Right, let's crack on. I'm not sure quite how I can follow Tom. I was really impressed with that. Let's talk about Portsdown anyway. What we're going to look at is, first of all, have a quick talk about the project status, look at the new features I've done in the last year, future upgrades, Raspberry Pi availability, this is a big issue at the moment, and then talk about next generation Portsdown, where we think we're going to go. Okay, the status, still very much active. Portsdown 2020, I know there's been some sort of worry, is Portsdown 2020 going to get ditched? But no, we're going to continue to support it. I think one of the most practical reasons we're going to continue to support it is there are 5 of them in my shack. I had a quick count around. For my QO100 transmissions on Thursday night go through a Portsdown 2020. I'm just rebuilding the Portsdown 2020 test and development rig, so very much continued support on that. However, all the development effort is being concentrated on the Portsdown 4. The 4 is limited in scope by hardware, but not as much as the Portsdown 2020, which is why all the development efforts going there. Looking at new video sources when they are worthwhile, looking at more test equipment, and being able to do more things with the touchscreen, and I'll talk about all 3 of those today. So here we are. This is my current Portsdown 2020 test rig. Going in a die-cast box. It's been languishing on the bench, loose for ages. It's going on the lid of the box, so I can program SD cards easily. New features during the last year, we've put in band viewer for the band viewer facility for Lime, RTL SDR, and AirSpire. All 3 of those are implemented in there, and I'll talk a bit more about those in a minute. DVB-T transmit is available from the Lime on the Portsdown 2020. And of course, the Portsdown filter modulator board is great for a cheap DVB-S wide bandwidth option. So if you have a local repeater that needs 1 megasymbol input, or God forbid 4.2 megasymbol input, the Portsdown filter modulator will do that from a Raspberry Pi 3. Gradually, I think we're going to change the name of Portsdown 2020 to Portsdown 3. To link with the Raspberry Pi 3 and to emphasize that it isn't stuck in 2020, it is moving on. Portsdown 4, to some extent, we're up against hardware limitations here. Some were my design decisions. Some were the fact that the Raspberry Pi 4 has only got an H.264 encoder. We thought it was brilliant 5-6 years ago. Now beginning to be overtaken on other platforms. As the design decisions, we went with an 8 with a certain size of touchscreen. We've gone up to 800 by 480 pixels. And actually, Tom mentioned how difficult it was to do things on an Android phone. We hit the same problems here. I've shied away from using keyboard and mouse because I really want it to be a portable setup. So we're sticking with that. So aiming to exploit the existing design. And one of the things that shows how far this can be stretched is Langston. Same hardware, just put in a little twiddly knob based on a mouse, and you get far more functionality. So video sources. HDMI capture has always been a bit difficult. On eBay, you will find lots of HDMI capture devices. They all work differently. Most of them work with Windows because they've been designed to work with Windows. They haven't been designed to work with bare metal Linux. So I have to write a driver, or at least configure an existing driver for each of them. So what we've gone with is the Elgato Cam Link that you see there. Available on eBay, not on eBay, sorry, on Amazon for about 99 quid when it's on offer. So it is expensive, but it is good. It will capture 4K if you have a suitable PC to do things with 4K. On a Portsdown, it'll capture 720p HDMI very nicely. So we've added that as a video source, and that's particularly aimed at the Portsdown repeater transmitter. Another video source that came along during the era on the right there is the Polycom Eagle Eye mini USB camera. These were available on eBay at one stage for about £15. Very nice cameras, very high definition, and work well now with Portsdown 4. Lastly, people have been asking me for a long time to have selectable test cards or custom test cards. You remember the original Portsdown just had test card F. Well, I've now put a whole page full of test cards to select. You've got CE, if you really want it, 5544, color bars, a grayscale, and you can put in your own cards there. And you can actually put in 3 versions, a 4x3 version, a 16:9 version, and a 1080p version there. And it will automatically select the right version depending on what format you have selected. So you can select test cards on menu 3 there. You need to use some sort of file manager to get the test cards onto the Raspberry Pi, and that really is a connect it to a PC type activity. But it is now possible then to select them from the touchscreen while you're out portable. On the test equipment side, I'm really in awe of the work that Tom has done, and also Phil, Heather, and Tim. You know, we really are building on a lot of their work. Many of you have seen BandViewer. I've talked about it a lot. It is brilliant for portable operation. It's transformed the way I do portable operation. This particular view here, you can see here, is the BandViewer using an AirSpy. You can see it's 10 meg wide, and guess what? It's looking at the QO100 transponder there. Tom mentioned Phil's code. BandViewer actually uses Phil's code, and it all started from Phil's AirSpy code. I adapted it to the Lime, then readapted it so it works with AirSpy and RTL SDR. I am looking at adding to the list of SDRs that it supports, but it all takes time. So using the same technology as is in BandViewer, I built up the noise figure meter. Now this was described at length in CQTV, but is really useful for checking how good your ATV receivers and preamps are. Just stick the noise figure meter with a Lime. Unfortunately, it only supports Lime SDR because there's quite a lot to do. And stick that on the IF of your transverter or after your preamp, and with a calibrated noise source, measure the noise figure and optimize it, of course. The Portsdown signal generator has been in there for 3 or 4 years now. And I've gradually been adding to the signal sources that it'll work with. But nothing went below 50 megs. which was a challenge for me because I didn't have anything in the shack to do any signal generation below 50 megs. Never been a great fan of signal generators, not used them very much, not had one, so I've always worked around it. However, I was taking apart some old kit for salvaging connectors and all the like you do, and I found an analog to devices AD9850 on a bit of PCB. I thought, that is a direct digital synthesizer. I could drive that from Portsdown, and that's exactly what I've done. So this not very neat bit here is the PCB offcut with a TCXO. That's 120 meg TCXO on the left-hand side there. Thanks, Mike. Driven by a little regulator, powered by a little regulator. On the left-hand side there, on the soldered to pin header, sacrilege, there are the SPI connections to the Raspberry Pi, and on the right-hand side there, you get the signal out. Now I'm going to put that in a box. It still isn't in a box, but it does work. And you can just select that as a signal source on the Portsdown signal generator and go from 50 megs down to 1 hertz. So that's expanding all the time. XY display, I had, or I still do have, an HP 141T spectrum analyzer, but the tube was certainly had seen better days. So using a couple of A to D converters, got essentially a storage display for the spectrum analyzer, and I still use that on my more recent HP spectrum analyzer, mainly for capturing screenshots because it produces a great screenshot. Still working on increasing the test equipment. One of the things I have in mind is some sort of microwave aerial gain comparison, so you can build your own antenna range. I haven't done any of the software for this, but the concept is you set up a remote DVB-S transmitter, probably about 500 meters away. And you look at that on band viewer and you see the signal, and you also measure the noise sort of a meg away from it, and you compare the two. So that will be coming soon. The other thing I am currently working on is a little multimeter display and logger. So these Parkside multimeters were available for $9.99, I think it was, or $11.99 from Lidl. They're easily modified for RS-232 output, and I've now successfully interfaced that to the Portsdown. Either it'll be, you'll be able to select whether you have large numbers, so rather than craning your head towards the LCD, you can have the large numbers on the screen, or a moving meter type display, or a long duration logger, the sort of thing you'd use for checking battery capacity over 10 hours and just get a plot of the voltage of a battery over 10 hours, that sort of thing. So that's under development. On the touch screen, I mentioned that we've limited the screen space to 800 by 480. In the Portsdown 4, we only support use of the display serial interface. That's the ribbon cable interface on the Raspberry Pi 4. The DF Robot market a 5-inch screen that uses the same interface and is broadly compatible. Not quite. The way it handles touch is slightly different, and I have modified the code to improve that. But DF Robot 5-inch screen is supported, and although I don't have one, and hence it's not formally supported because I can't test any changes, I am told that WaveShare do a 3.5-inch screen if you really want to make your Portsdown 4 miniaturized. which uses that interface as well. 800 by 480 is the key thing. You need to have that screen size. So more touchscreens, and the photo there with a rather dim screen, it doesn't look that dim in real life, is a die-cast box version of Portsdown that I am working on. It's not populated with all the connectors yet, but it does function. So it's a smaller version of Portsdown 4. People have been asking for web access of Portsdown, and this really is the same sort of work that Tom has been doing, you know, being able to access your Portsdown over the network. And yet again, thanks to Phil, I've been able to implement this. He sorted out the web server side of life for me, and the coding on the web side, and I just hooked it back into Portsdown. So you can now remotely control over your own network the Portsdown, switch it to transmit. You can monitor the receiver MER. You can also control the signal generator over the web. You will eventually be able to do band viewer display, not probably not control. The reason for that is I want to maintain compatibility between the band viewer application between Portsdown 2020 and Portsdown 4. So I have a single application to support. And of course, Portsdown 2020 does not do web access. But at least you'll be able to watch the display having set it up. One limitation of this is there are no moving pictures. We don't do moving pictures on this. It's just a simple point and click interface rather than a full control like Tom's managed. Okay, so how do you do web control? I've only done publicized this in CQTV. I realize I haven't yet even put it on the wiki. Basically, you just, if you go to menu 2 info on your Portsdown screen, you'll see what IP address your Portsdown is on. You need to type that IP address into your browser, as you can see here. You'll get a screen like this. If you go to snaps, you just get a folder view of all the snaps that are in the folder. So you can then pull those up easily from a PC. But if you click on touchscreen, you'll see this. You'll see web control not enabled. So the thing to do is go into menu 3, system config, and press enable web control. It's also possible to do it from the SSH console menu if you want to go down that route. Okay, and now I'm going to go into a shortly going to go into a demo of that. Let's go into the demo of web control now. I'm just going to change the screen sharing, and let's go to the right screen, which is, I've lost it here. Stand by. That's the one. Share. I hope that is it. There we go. That works. Can you see that, David? Just confirm you're seeing that. Yes, yeah, you are.
That's fine. That's fine.
Good. Okay. So while I'm here, you'll see that my mouse moving across there. You can go through the menus. You'll notice it, or you won't notice, but there is some slight delay there. The screen only refreshes once a second. So you need to be patient, go through things slowly, because if you click too fast, your clicks will get ahead of what you're seeing. I was talking about enabling Wi-Fi config, system config, sorry, enabling web control, system config, web control enabled, you'll see there. So that's how that is done. Let's go back to look at some of the new facilities that I put on the touchscreen here. First is Wi-Fi setup. If you go to menu 3 and Wi-Fi config, you get this screen here. First thing is you need to enable the Wi-Fi. Let's try enabling the Wi-Fi. It does that. And then these buttons on the left-hand side enable you to list the Wi-Fi networks. And there you can see all my local Wi-Fi networks. So you can see what's there from Wi-Fi. Using these other buttons, you can set up a Wi-Fi network. I won't do that because it might ruin the rest of my demo, but it's fairly straightforward to set up one of those Wi-Fi networks there. And you can disable Wi-Fi, or you can delete all the Wi-Fi information there. You can only connect to one Wi-Fi network at a time, and you can only connect to the networks you can see. You can't connect to hidden networks. Let's just disable that and we'll move on with the rest of the demo. The other thing I've done is added a file menu. This is on menu 2 because that was the only place I had space for it. So you go into the file menu here. In the file menu, there you can see there is space for a few more things. The first thing that's worth looking at is list USB devices. On here, you can see all the USB devices connected. This particular Portsdown has a Pluto, so that is what the analog devices Inc. is there. The FTDI there is a mini tuner. The KY Systems Corp is the mouse for my Langston, the sort of rotary encoder for the mouse. But the main reason I put this here is you can tell whether you have a Fushikai USB detector, USB video dongle connected, or whether you've got a cheap imitation. So if you're going around a rally and looking for a real Fushikai EasyCap, you can just plug it in to this and have a look at what it is. Now you'll notice this interface is a new interface for the Portsdown list. Is a new list interface where you can list up to 10 pages of 10 lines of information. And that has enabled me to do some file stuff, in that you now have a file explorer. So if you want to look at what's on your Raspberry Pi, this is the /home/pi directory. This one is full of rubbish because it's my development Raspberry Pi. But if we go into the next page, you'll eventually get to RPID-ATV, which is the main directory for Portsdown. Select that, you see it highlights, select, and then you're into all the normal things that would be on a Portsdown. If we go into scripts here, select, eventually in this lot here, you can see there's again loads of rubbish. All the scripts that do things, but what I want to show is here, Portsdown config. If you now click on that and select it, it'll actually explore the Portsdown config file and give you a text file listing so you can see all the settings. So it's actually a real file explorer. It will also display JPEGs and play movies from File Explorer. So that enables you to do a few more things while away from your PC. Let's exit from that. Exit out of the file menu, and we're back to the familiar normal screen menu. Right, I'm going to change screen sharing again, and back to the camera, standby. Back to the presentation.
And while you do that, Dave, just a reminder to everybody at home that you can ask questions and make comments on either BATC Streamer or on the Zoom call, and we'll read as many as we can to Dave at the end. And plus, by the way, after this as well, we do have an informal session with Q&As on the Portsdown and ride and other things as well.
Thanks. And has that come up now, David? Have I got the right screen?
No, I don't think so, actually.
Let's have a look.
We've got your presenter screen, I believe, actually. So we're
Right.
seeing both views.
We'll have that one then.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, we'll
Good.
bring you that.
Okay. Right. More new facilities. We've been working on a Portsdown 4 repeater transmitter. Trying to make things easy for repeater groups to transition away from DTX1 or SR systems. I know some of the DTX1s are getting a bit long in the tooth now. And looking at 3 options. The initial being easy cap input. You can configure it either for 4x3 or 16x9, but normal video input. So this is take out a DTX1 and put in a Portsdown 4 repeater transmitter with an easy cap and a lime, and gives you about 1 milliwatt out at your output frequency. And this will run 24/7. Reboots twice a day for reliability, but will do the standard transmission. Now, clearly, we're wanting to move on to into the digital age and all digital repeaters. So that Elgato HDMI dongle I mentioned, that you can use that instead of the EasyCap, and you can get H.264 encoding of 720p using a Portsdown 4. And that will bring your repeater into the digital age just by swapping that out from the EasyCap. I'd have liked to make it do 1080p, but as I said, the Portsdown 4 beginning to show its age and not really up to encoding that in H.264. So you can actually swap out the Portsdown 4 for a Jetson Nano using the same Lime SDR, the same Elgato HDMI dongle. And that, once I've finished it, will transmit H.265 1080p on a 1 mega symbol signal very, very well. It would even do it on 333 if you need to. I have had it running on the bench. The problem is I can't get it to run unattended operation reliably at the moment, or I can't get it to start unattended operation reliably. Once it's started, it's fine. There's some user permissions issues, and I feel I may have to reach out to my son to help me with that one. So that's where we're going with Portsdown 4 repeater transmitters. Moving into the slightly wider world, people have had problems finding Raspberry Pis. Now, I've been tracking this fairly closely, as you'd expect. Raspberry Pi availability, I think, is slated to improve in Q2 of 2023. So April 2023, everybody's saying that things will get better. Now, clearly, there is a bow wave of demand. In the interim, I'm told you can go to the Raspberry Pi shop in Cambridge and buy one off over the counter just like that. And there is next weekend, if you feel like a trip to London, there is a Raspberry Pi pop-up shop in London where they will sell one Raspberry Pi 4 to each customer, but only one. So that's another alternative. One thing I'm signed up for is rpilocator.com. This is a website that tracks where Raspberry Pis are available. You can sign up for an RSS feed from this, and also you can follow them on Twitter, RPI Locator. And when Raspberry Pis are available, you get a stock alert of where they are. So far, sadly, all the stock alerts have been in Germany, Belgium, Australia, USA. I would encourage you not to buy from eBay. You are just putting money in the hands of people who are trying to profit from the Raspberry Pi Foundation and making the situation worse. So please just be patient and look at what's available from the official sources. And remember, some things, as Tom said, you can use a Raspberry Pi 3, 4, or even the old Raspberry Pi 2 that you've got on the shelf. Rumours about a Raspberry Pi 5, nothing doing at the moment. I think the Raspberry Pi Foundation have mentioned that their resources have been diverted during the chip shortage in trying to check out alternate sources for a Raspberry Pi 5. Obviously, we'd like it to sort of have the video encoding facilities of a Jetson, but nothing seen yet on that front. So I'm actually looking at Portsdown 4 next generation. Now, the Portsdown 4 uses the Buster operating system. Now, this is one operating system ago. But when they moved from the Buster to the latest operating system, which is Bullseye, they disabled or upgraded and disabled a number of features. One of which was the way that the Portsdown does H.264 encoding. So we decided to stick with Buster, the old operating system. Now, we weren't alone in being upset by the fact that they'd sort of moved, sunsetted, I think probably is the word, a number of features. To the extent that the Raspberry Pi Foundation have recognized this, and they actually support with security updates the old Buster version, and they call it Legacy Buster, and we are using that and we'll continue to use that. However, Bullseye brings new encoding methods into FFmpeg, for example, and maybe even GStreamer. And we may be able to use those to replace the H.264 encoding that we've been using right from the start on the Portsdown. The other thing I'm very, very conscious of is that the Portsdown software needs tidying. I would not have started from here if I'd known where I was going, if you know what I mean. And there are many aspects of the Portsdown software that I've learned along the way. I did that wrong, but actually tidying up is more risk than leaving it as it is. So when I do Portsdown 4 next generation, it will start with very few capabilities, but they'll be neatly implemented. So it really needs doing, and that's what I hope to do with when we move to the next generation. In the meantime, though, Portsdown 4 works really well, and to the extent that going out portable, I no longer take a PC, I just take Portsdowns. And I think Noel is the same. So that's the way it goes. Okay, that concludes what I have to say formally, but I'm more than happy to take questions, and we'll then transition into a wider question and answer session about Portsdown ride and generally the way things are going on digital ATV. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dave. And as you say, fairly shortly, in about 10 minutes or so, we'll be having a group discussion with both you as well as Noel and Tim on this. But it doesn't stop you entering any questions now, particularly if you've got anything particular about what Dave has said. A couple of comments come in. I think some of them might be dealt with actually on our more wide Q&A session, so I might ignore a couple. Forgive me, but they will be used then, or another opportunity for you to ask them then. Dave says you've mentioned being able to add extra JPEG test cards. Is there any chance of GIF support? Would be handy for animated test cards. Possibly GIF, I'm guessing that might be GIF as opposed to GIF. But I might be wrong.
It's not something I have looked at, and it's not something that's easily done. That's probably why I haven't looked at it. I will add that to the list, but yeah, play out of it will more be in the category of play out of movies by VLC, and that's probably how I would choose to do it. But I will add that to the list. but it's a way off.
Okay, and thanks. And Dave has a second question. The web access is brilliant. Any chance of it working headless, in other words, screenless?
Yes, that is already on the list. It's fairly high on the list, but I got distracted by other things. So yes, that will working screenless would clearly be a really good capability.
Okay, thank you. So I'm just trying to filter some of these because I know that Noel has said they'll be addressed more fully, probably as a Q&A in a little while. Justin G8YTZ's made a few comments there. He personally blames you, I think, completely for the pie shortage, but you haven't had that many, have you? Can I just add a little twopenneth as well for that? If you find it difficult to get the raw board, whilst I agree with you 100% that none of us should try and make the people that profit from selling them on eBay, etc., by buying them, you can also buy them sometimes as part of their personal computer kit, which comes in a keyboard with a nice breakout board, and it's genuine product then at a reasonable price. I think last time I had to do that to get a Raspberry Pi 4, and it was about £75, but with a rather nice keyboard. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, it's a very good point. And in fact, 2 days ago, Raspberry Pi kits, I think they were 4 gigabyte, were available from a seller. I nearly bought one and then thought, no, actually, that's just greedy because I don't need one. But they were available in UK from local seller here. I'm trying to remember their name now.
Might be CPC, was it?
No, it was the one based in Middle Wallop, just down the road from me. I'm trying to remember their name, but yes, that is well worth looking out for.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people have Pi Shop, Pyroni, and all those sort of companies, but it is worth looking at those because they're genuine products. You are paying a bit more, but then you're getting more for it. And the breakout board I've found personally really quite useful, that is all built into that to bring out the connectors and things to the back of the keyboard. Just a thought anyway. Justin says, Dave, is the AirSpy Mini suitable because it's half the price?
I doubt whether it would work straight away. How much modification it would need to make it work, I'm not sure. The problem is I don't have one, and I will only commit to supporting kit that I have, because otherwise I break things and people get upset.
Okay, thank you. Dave M5TXJ on BATC's just said that Pimoroni had kits a week ago. That was the kit, I think, including the personal computer keyboard. So if you're desperate for a Raspberry Pi and you don't want to feed the pockets of the profiteers, then this would be just another way. Terry G1LPS says, any news on the band viewer waterfall as mentioned in CQTV?
I'm glad you mentioned that, Terry. I put that in there as a, is anybody interested in this? And nobody was interested. So up until your comment now, nobody has come back to me. So I put it on the back burner. That's one person who's interested, so that moves it up the to-do list a bit. But yeah, there's no reason why it shouldn't get in there eventually. It's just a matter of time and priorities.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Justin says the SR Systems HD mod TX and encoder costs $500. So yes, I agree the Lime is a bit pricey. And I love the web interface. When I was testing the 70 centimeters receiver at GB3JV, I could remotely control my transmitter at home using my iPhone.
Yeah, that's an amazing capability. And Justin brings up the issue of cost of SDRs. The global chip shortage has hit us really hard. Lime SDR have had to go to more expensive components to bring out the new version of the Lime, which was due to be available this month. Sadly, I haven't seen anything. It's all gone quiet over there, as they say. And Pluto availability is another problem. So sadly, there is nothing we can do about it. But and I know people have been looking at would Caribou Light, which is another SDR being slated for the Raspberry Pi 4. Would that be a solution? And again, they have just slipped their shipping date by 2 or 3 months. So we are conscious that Lime SDRs are expensive / unavailable. Plutos are getting expensive / unavailable. nothing we can do about it. And that's why I actually said, filter modulator board, don't throw them all away yet.
Probably a great way as well as using the BATC forum if you do see a source of these, because in global scale, probably what our club members need is a small number. So if somebody does see something like this available, or the Raspberry Pis or whatever, it's a good use of the club forum, isn't it, to let other people know?
Absolutely. And in the early days of the Raspberry Pi 4 shortage, the forum was good. I'm not sure it's quite quick enough now, because they do tend to sell out. It's about 20 minutes, the life of 100 Raspberry Pi 4s on the website now.
Goodness, right. Okay. So I'm just filtering through some of these because I know that you're going to cover other things later on. I might even include some of those. I did just see a question about Wi-Fi. From Nigel2E0EHH, excuse me, says, do you need to go through the Wi-Fi network instead of cable network to do the same on a Raspberry Pi 4? Or P4, no, sorry, on a P4, beg your pardon, a Portsdown 4.
You can use either the cable or the Wi-Fi network for web control of the Raspberry Pi, Nigel. One thing I didn't mention when I was talking about enabling the Wi-Fi is some people have found that the Wi-Fi then gets back into their microphone input, with polyscreen/decoupled microphone leads into cheap dongles. You get Wi-Fi interference on your transmission audio, just like you do with say a mobile phone at a presentation. Once you've enabled the Wi-Fi, it works exactly the same way as the wired network. But do be careful, of course, if you're only on 2.4 gigs Wi-Fi and you start transmitting on QO100, because you might not be able to stop because your Wi-Fi will die.
Absolutely. Dave, I'm going to leave the questions there. I know some of you have asked questions and they haven't been answered yet, but I'm going to bring them over to the very next session.